Observation. There is skill in fishing. They who go to sea on a fishing voyage go provided with their craft, as they very fitly call it, without which they can do nothing. They have their lines, hooks of several sizes, and their bait. They carefully observe their seasons when the fish fall in. Then they ply their business day and night. But how much more skillful and industrious is Satan to ensnare and destroy souls? The devil makes a voyage as well as you. He has his baits for you, as you have for the fish. He has his devices and wiles to catch souls. 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11, he is a serpent, an old serpent, too crafty for man in his perfection, much more in his fallen state, his understanding being injured by the fall, and all his faculties poisoned and perverted. Theologians observe 4 steps or degrees of Satan's tempting power. First, he can find out the constitutional evils of men. He knows to what sins their natures are more especially prone and inclined. Secondly, he can propound suitable objects to those lusts. He can exactly and fully hit every man's humor, as Agrippa mixed her poison in that meat which her husband loved best. Thirdly, he can inject and cast motions into the mind, to close with those tempting objects. As it is said of Judas, the devil put it into his heart. Fourthly, he can solicit, irritate, and provoke the heart, and by continual restless solicitations weary it. And by this he often draws men to commit such things as startled them in the first instance. All this he can do, if he meets with difficulties. Yet does he not act to the utmost of his skill and power at all times, and with all persons? Neither indeed need he do so. The very propounding of an object is enough to some. Without any further solicitation, the devil makes an easy conquest of them. And besides all this, his policy appears in the election of place, time, and instruments to tempt by. And thus are poor souls caught, as fish, in an evil net. The carnal man is led by sense as a beast, and Satan handles and suits him accordingly. He uses all sorts of motives, not only internal and intellective, but external and sensitive also, as the sparkling of the wine when it gives its color in the glass, the heartless beauty whose eyelids are snares, hiding always the hook and concealing the issue from his victims. He promises them gain and profit, pleasure and delight, and all that is tempting with assurance of secrecy. By these he fastens the fatal hook in their jaws, and thus they are led captive by him at his will. Reflection. And is Satan so subtle and industrious to entice souls to sin? Does he thus cast out his golden baits and allure souls with pleasure to their ruin? Then how does it behove you, O my soul, to be jealous and wary? How strict a guard should I set upon every sense? Or let me not so much regard how sin comes towards me in the temptation, as how it goes off at last. The day in which Sodom was destroyed began with a pleasant sunshine, but ended in fire and brimstone. I may promise myself much content in the satisfaction of my lusts, but oh, how certainly will it end in my ruin. Ahab doubtless promised himself much content in the vineyard of Naboth, but his blood paid for it in the portion of Jezreel. The heartless bed was perfumed to entice a simple young man. Proverbs 7:17, but those chambers of delight prove the chambers of death, and her house the way to hell. Oh, with what a smiling face does sin come on towards me in its temptations! How does it tickle the carnal fancy and please the deceived heart? But what a dreadful issue has it! The delight is quickly gone, but the guilt of it remains to amaze and terrify the soul with ghastly forms and dreadful representations of the wrath of God. As sin has its delights attending it to enter and fasten it, so it has its horrors and stings to torment and wound. And as certainly as I see those go before it to make a way, so certainly shall I find these follow after and tread upon his heels. No sooner is a conscience awakened, but all those delights vanish as a night vision, or as a dream when one awakes. And then I shall cry, here's a hook, but where's the bait? Here's a guilt and horror, but where the delight that I was promised? And I, where shall I now go? Ah, my deceitful lusts, you've enticed and left me in the midst of all miseries.